YouTube, it's Allison. I'm just here. I said that I would post a video of my miscarriage story for those of you that were interested, so here it is. The reason it took so long for me to upload this is because I actually had recorded this before, several days ago actually. And today I was finishing up editing the video and the movie creator thing just stopped working. So I lost everything that I had edited. The reason that I had to edit it so much is because I babble and I just go on and on and on. And I say 50 million times and anyway a zillion times. So I was just cutting out those boring parts. I wasn't cutting out any pertinent information or anything. But anyway, see, I say it a lot. I just realized, well, I'm going to have to make another one. So here we are. So I'm going to try to keep this one shorter, more straightforward and to the point so that there's not a lot of editing that I have to do. So hopefully it won't cut out everything that I worked on. Also, you know, it was just a long video earlier, so I'm hoping to keep it shorter so that people like me with short attention spans don't have to deal with it. In any case, so let's get started. So I did forget to mention in my introduction video that my husband is 34 and I am 31. We are both trying for our first child. I think I did mention that. Temperatures and OPKs didn't really do the job for me as far as tracking, trying to figure out when my ovulation was. So that's a brief synopsis of my introduction video, but I will link it in the down bar as soon as I get this one uploaded. So my miscarriage story. My husband and I have been trying to conceive since August of 2012. Up until January, we hadn't really been actively trying. We have been trying, but not preventing is what a lot of people would say. And by this, I don't mean that we were just la-di-da about it. I was tracking my cycles, trying to figure out when I was going to ovulate. I was spotting a lot in between periods just because I did get my Mirena taken out in August. I had been on birth control since I was 18 years old, and I got my Mirena in when I was about 28. So I was on birth control pills for 10 years, and then I was on my Mirena for 3 years. And so I was actually not expecting to get pregnant right away, and we didn't. I was actually expecting for my cycles to take quite a while to normalize, and I didn't know if I would be ovulating at all. So August we tried really hard, didn't get anywhere. September, October, November, we kind of tried ish. My husband was having a lot of pain, so we kind of had to time BDing around that, and so it just wasn't very effective. Then December we moved, and it was extremely stressful. So again, we just were not successful. January we tried a little harder. I was finally getting more regular, or not more regular, but my periods were getting more regular. I now knew they were 26 days. My cycles had been anywhere between 24 and 28 days, but the majority of the time they were 26 days. So they had finally started regulating, and so I said, hey, let's start actively trying. So in January of 2013, that's what we did. We started actively trying. I was more consistent with taking my temperature every day so that I could hopefully see a pattern. I had taken it consistently in December and I didn't see any pattern. Took it consistently in January, no pattern. So February, consistently no pattern. I mean, I couldn't tell if I was ovulating or not. It was just, that's how it was. So anyway, I gave up on that. And then I started using OPKs, and I wasn't very consistent with them, yada, yada, yada. I feel like I'm going over the introduction again, so I'm just going to stop. I'll link the introduction video down below so you guys can look at that. In any case, I did January, we did try a little more. We were not successful. February and March we also did try, but February and March we tried more consistently around the time of ovulation, and we did BD more. So that's really, I would say, 2 full months of actively trying. I think the rest of the time we were just not preventing, because we weren't really able to try around ovulation as much as we would like. So 2 months of trying, and in March I started taking my temperature at the beginning of my cycle, and it dipped really low one day, and temping really stressed me out, and I threw the thermometer. I was like, I'm done with this. So I just threw it, and I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And but I was very consistent with my OPKs, and I didn't get a positive. And then lo and behold, the end of May, we were going on vacation, and we just had poor timing of when we booked the vacation, and I was actually due to start my period the day before we went on vacation. And I didn't start, and then we went on vacation. We were there for a few days, and I still hadn't started. And if we're going by the 26-day cycle, finally I was 3 days late, and I was like, there's got to be something going on. And I was randomly nauseous in waves. It was more like, felt like the kind of nausea you get when you don't eat for a long time. But I was on vacation, so I was eating more than I should. So I knew that I wasn't sick, really. I didn't feel sick, and the nausea was really random and very slight. Then we went down to dinner. I was officially 3 or 4 days late at that time. Or sorry, we didn't go down to dinner. We went down to breakfast buffet, and we were just sitting there talking, having a good breakfast, and my husband goes and grabs a donut, and he's going on and on about how great this donut is, the best donut he ever had. So I said, well, let me have a piece, because I was already full and I didn't want to go grab my own donut. So I said, let me just have a piece and taste it, because, I want to taste the best donut ever. So he gives it to me, and I put it near my mouth, and I put it down, and I said, I can't eat that. And he's like, why not? And I said, because I'll throw up. So right away I already had a food aversion, and I was like, this is crazy. I'm only like 3 or 4 days late, and I don't understand. So we decided we needed to get me a pregnancy test. So there was a drugstore just next door to our hotel. So we went there and got a 2-pack of pregnancy tests, and we went back to the hotel room, and I took one right away. So it wasn't first morning urine, FMU. And it was negative, and I could have sworn I saw something, but it was so super faint that I was like, no, I'm not going to be one of those girls that is always wondering, that takes her pregnancy test so early that she's like, is it a positive? Is it a negative? Do I see something? I was like, no, I'm not going to be one of those girls with line eye. So I just tossed it and said it was a negative, and that's that. Then the next day I still hadn't started my period, so I took the other one, and again negative. Again, there was something super, super faint there, but it was so faint I couldn't really tell if it was there. I couldn't really tell if it had color, and again I was like, no, I'm not going to overanalyze this, and I just threw it away, assumed it was a negative. So we get home from our vacation. I still hadn't started, and I called my OBGYN, and I said, Well, I'm 5 days late for my period and I haven't started, and I took a pregnancy test and it was negative. And they said, well, unfortunately at this point there's nothing we can really do, so just give us a call if you get a positive on your pregnancy test. Otherwise, you're just going to have to wait for your period to start. And they said it could just be that you didn't ovulate this month, so your period is taking longer to show up. So I was like, oh, great. I have to wait, and I don't like waiting. I am very impatient as far as this baby stuff goes. At 9 days late, I took another pregnancy test. It was a Thursday, and it came back positive, and I was so excited. I was home alone. It was my day off, and my husband actually texted me, and he said, if you still haven't started today, you really should call the OB or the primary care doctor and see, if you can get a blood test or something, because we really need to know what's going on with you if you haven't started your period and you got that negative pregnancy test. So I was like, I sent him a picture of the positive pregnancy test, and I was like, no need to call the doctor, I'm pregnant. And that's not really the way I wanted to tell him, but I didn't want him sitting at work worrying about me or getting upset and being like, why aren't you calling the doctor? So I just figured I'd go ahead and tell him. Apparently, he started to head home right away when he got that text message. He responded, oh shit. And I assume that it was more like, oh shit, like we actually did it, because March was our 7th cycle trying. And so I was beginning to think that it was going to take us a very long time to have a kid, just because I'm so impatient. Now I know it can take healthy couples up to a year to conceive with timed intercourse around ovulation, but I know I can get pregnant. So what is taking so long? I was worried that I was one of those people that just either had irregular ovulation times or was infertile for some reason, or maybe something was going on with my husband. In any case, I was really worried about it. So month 7, we conceived. Yay! I hadn't got a positive OPK. I wasn't temping. I didn't know when I ovulated. So I just had to go. The estimated due date would be December 9th if you went by the first day of my last menstrual period. So anyway, I was very excited. The second I saw the positive, I was jumping up and down in the bathroom. I was like, yay, yay! I was like so excited. And so I just ended up telling my husband. I was, over text, because he had just texted me. I hadn't told my parents. I hadn't told any coworkers or other friends or extended family. And I was hoping that my husband wouldn't either. Initially I didn't want to tell anybody except for those people that I was very close to. So I told my 2 sisters and my best friend that I had gotten a positive pregnancy test. Well, lo and behold, he was on his way home and I didn't know it. And I went to get some dinner from the store, and by the time I got back, he was on the phone with his mother telling her. So I was like, oh shoot, because I wanted to wait past the 12-week mark, just in case anything went wrong. But I said, oh, he's told his family, so now I have to tell mine. So I told my parents, and he was so sweet. He bought me flowers, and he was all excited, and it was very sweet. So anyway, we were very excited, and then that was a Thursday. And then Saturday I went to work and I wiped, and I thought I saw something, but pink on my toilet paper, but I wasn't quite sure. It was very faint, so I just dismissed it. I thought I was overanalyzing things or something. And then Sunday, I went to the bathroom and I started spotting. Every time I went to the bathroom, I would have brown spotting on my toilet paper. I didn't need a panty liner or anything, but there was definitely something there. So Sunday evening, I called the on-call number for the OBGYN's office and told them that I was spotting brown, and they said, well, you know, there's nothing we'd be able to do at this point, so just drink plenty of water and rest, and that's all you can do at this point. If it turns red, or you're having cramping, or the flow gets a lot heavier, then go to the ER. And so I was like, okay. And I know I wasn't supposed to freak out. I know a lot of women have spotting during pregnancy. I know a lot of women even have like periods sometimes. And I know that brown isn't the worry color, that red is the worry color. But I was still so worried. I couldn't stop myself from freaking out. And I tried not to, I really did, but it just made it worse. I couldn't stop. Monday, I went to work, and I was still spotting brown, but now I had to wear a panty liner. So I called the OBGYN's office and the primary care doctor's office just to see if one of them could get me in for blood work. So I just calling both of them to see who could get me in first, basically. And my primary care doctor called me back first, and I set up an appointment for 10 a.m. that day, just so that I could get blood work. And then my OBGYN called me about half an hour later. Her nurse called me, said, what's going on? I told her everything that had happened. It wasn't pain, it was just brown. And she said, well, were you constipated recently? And I said, actually, Saturday I was, and then Sunday is when I started spotting. And she said, well, it could be that the constipation just irritated your cervix, so it's probably cervical blood, it's probably not from the uterus, but we would still want you to come in for blood work this afternoon. And she really was kind of not nice how she was talking to me. It was just kind of very blunt and clinical. I can't really describe it. And so I said, well, I actually have a doctor's appointment with my primary care doctor this morning at 10 a.m. So I can just get blood work from there and have her send it to you. And she said, well, that's fine if you want her to manage your pregnancy. And I was like, no, I don't want her to manage my pregnancy. She's not an OBGYN or a midwife or anything like that. She doesn't deliver children or anything. So no, I don't want her to manage my pregnancy. I just thought it'd be easier for you guys. And she's like, well, no, we have to do it here. And I was like, okay. And it was really hurtful. It felt kind of like a slap in the face. And I was like, this is my first pregnancy, and I was very scared, and I didn't know what to do or what to think or how to de-stress. This was my first pregnancy, and I thought I was losing it, and it was very scary and very sad, and for someone to react in that way was very hurtful. But I was hoping that the nurse was just having a bad day. And so she said, no, we'll need you to come in. I'll leave a sheet of blood work for you at the desk so that you can get it done. And I said, okay. So I went over there after I had to leave work early, go to my primary care doctor's. She gave me a slip for blood work in case I couldn't get blood work from the OB until later or tomorrow or something. So I said, okay. So she gave it to me just in case. Then I went to the OBGYN's office, and I go up to the receptionist, and she's like, you don't have an appointment. And I was like, I know. The nurse said that she was going to leave a slip for blood work up at the desk for me. And she said, okay, let me see. I don't have anything up here. And then she left, and I guess she went to find the nurse that had ordered the blood work. And she comes back and she takes me to this different room. She's like, oh, the blood work's at the desk of the lab, so you'll have to go back to our little lab. And they had a little closet like size room, like a coat closet size room, just where they drew blood and stuff. And I was already very emotional with how the nurse had treated me earlier in the morning. And then when I get there and the receptionist is rude to me and she doesn't know where my paperwork is, and then she takes me back and I go and sit down. And the blood work lady calls me back and she said, do you have your paperwork? And I was like, no. They said, the nurse said she left it with you, and it's right there on her desk. So I don't even know why she was even asking. So it's right there on her desk. And she takes my blood and yada, yada, yada. And while she's looking on the computer to print something out, I was looking around the office, and there was one of those little stackable paper holder things that you see in offices where they put things to sort papers. And it said on there, shred, spelled S-H-R-E-A-D. And I was like, God, you can't even spell shred. And, you know, you didn't know you had my paperwork, and you were rude to me, and I'm probably miscarrying, and I don't know what's going on. And I was just overly emotional and stressed out and sad and angry and everything. She gets my blood work, then she is asking me if my name and address and information match on the blood work bottle and the paperwork that she has for me. And I said, well, everything matches, but my name is spelled wrong. And I told you guys this last time I was here that my name was spelled wrong, and you guys said you fixed it, so you need to fix it now. And so she's like, okay, I'll fix it. And they finally did that. And I told my husband about this experience, and he was so upset, and he's so sweet. He's always defending me and everything. And so he wrote a letter to the manager of the practice, I guess, and the manager of the particular office, because this is a very large practice here. There are several offices around town. So I think he wrote to the manager of the practice and then the manager of the office. I'm not really sure. Upset that they didn't take my emotional state into account when they were speaking with me, that they acted like, oh, who cares if it's a miscarriage, this is very common, blah, 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 blah. And so they did apologize, and my husband, I'm telling you, he needs to write a book on how to complain effectively, because he does it in a way where he's not a total jerk, but he does get his point across, and he does it really well. So then 48 hours later, I was supposed to go in for a second blood draw to see if my numbers had dropped or elevated or where they were at. But first, they needed to call me back. So Monday, I got the first blood draw, and they said they would call me on Tuesday, and they didn't call me. So finally, I called them, and they said that my numbers were really low. It was like 32 or 36 or something like that. So right then I knew. I was like, no, I'm supposedly around 6 weeks pregnant. They shouldn't be that low. My husband, he was trying not to have me freak out. So he was like, you don't know that. Maybe you're earlier than you thought. You don't know when you ovulated, yada, yada, yada. And I said, no, they're too low. And I was already right then accepting the fact that I was having a miscarriage just after hearing the numbers of the first blood draw. So that was Tuesday afternoon. And then Tuesday evening, I started bleeding red. So I went to the hospital. I still hadn't had any pain or anything like that. I got there. They did an internal ultrasound and an external ultrasound. They didn't see anything. They tested my blood work. They said the numbers are just under 2,000. If you're earlier in your pregnancy than you thought, this could just be a normal number. So they just diagnosed me with a threatened miscarriage, and basically that just means that I may or may not be miscarrying. So I still didn't have an answer. I still didn't know what was going on. Then Wednesday, I was still very depressed, thinking I was miscarrying. And my husband went with me to the doctor's office to get my second blood draw. Then Wednesday is when it became like a regular flow, red blood, clotting, and cramping. And so then I knew. I knew for sure. I didn't even have to know the results of the second blood draw, but they did call me later that evening, or no, I called them, and they did say that my levels had dropped significantly, so I was miscarrying. So I was, extremely upset. I started spotting on that Sunday, started bleeding right on a Tuesday, started cramping and clotting, bleeding more on Wednesday, and Thursday it was confirmed that I was miscarrying. And then the next Sunday was the last day I bled, so I had been bleeding for a week. I went in that week on a Wednesday or a Thursday for a doctor's appointment. They gave me a regular pregnancy test, and it was negative. So that was that. It had been confirmed. It was very sad. During that month, I was going through a range of emotions. I was numb. At one point, I was accepting. At another point, I was just bawling my eyes out and so hard that I couldn't breathe. At other times, I was angry. It was a whole slew of emotions that I hope nobody ever has to deal with. I don't wish it on anybody, to be honest. Just felt very unfair and sad. By the time I had stopped bleeding, I think I had gone through most of those emotions, and I had accepted it, and I was still very sad, but I think I had grieved for the most part while I was bleeding. The doctor told me at that appointment that she saw the negative pregnancy test, and that the best time to start trying again would be after my first menstrual cycle. So I finished that. I did my first vlog. Now I feel like I want a baby more than ever. I am really excited to try again. I'm really hopeful this time. Much less stressed about it. But my husband did actually buy me the OvaQ fertility monitor when it was confirmed that I was miscarrying, because I had so much trouble with getting any read on when I ovulate with my temperature and my OPKs. So he got me that, and I have been using that. It's funny because I'm already now on I'm on cycle day 17 right now. So I've been using that fertility monitor for 16 days because you're supposed to start it on day 2, and I still haven't seen anything to indicate ovulation. I haven't seen anything. I used the oral sensor and the vaginal sensor, and I still haven't seen anything. So we'll see. But we're still trying this month, so hopefully first time after miscarriage is a charm. I don't know. Otherwise, I'll still try to keep you updated, and I'll try to keep these videos a lot shorter. I think, thank you for any of you that stayed for the entire video, but I'm going to try to keep these videos anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes or shorter. I don't generally like long videos, and I don't think other people do either, but I think my miscarriage story, I think there was just a lot that I wanted to say, so it just ended up being a lot longer. So I'm sorry about the length, but I hope someone got something from this. I urge anyone who is in early pregnancy, if they start spotting in any way, to just go to the hospital. Don't even wait to talk to your doctor. Just go and put your mind at ease, because especially if it's your first pregnancy, it's extremely scary, and it's just really difficult, especially when you've been trying. I mean, I'm not saying it's not difficult if you haven't been trying, but it feels more unfair when you have been trying. So I just urge people to go straight to the hospital immediately to find out what's going on, as opposed to wait to know what's going on. And I mean, early pregnancy miscarriages, they can't prevent, but it's better. It was better for me once I knew than it was just sitting there freaking out and not knowing. So that's why I say that. Anyway, my kitty here is on my lap. He's been here snuggling with me. So say hi, Carson. He's camera shy. He's like, no. My other kitty's camera shy too. She never comes out. So anyway, thank you for watching. Sorry this was so long. And hopefully, wish me luck that this is the month for me. It would be month 8 trying. So first month after miscarriage. So good luck to me, and good luck to all of you. For those of you trying, baby dust, and I hope you get those sticky beans. And for the rest of you, just thanks for watching. Have a good day. Bye.